If you live in Africa, on Asia, Europe, any part of the world, at one stage or the other, you must have observed road constructions. And in these road constructions, you would see how that for thorough work to be done, especially on the express in Nigeria here, there are certain projects currently ongoing in Nigeria. There's one, Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, being handled by different companies and all the likes. And one of the major things they do is that when they try constructing, they worsen the state of the road before they get the best. It always amazes me how they get to worsen the road. Like, when they start work, they bring the caterpillar, bring different kinds of machines, they dig the ground, make it a mess. Then they start filling it again. And I'm asking myself, why not just walk on the face? Why not just place something on top of it and, make it something that we can use in the next 1 week, in the next 2 weeks, something we can just effectively just manage or use? Can't we just do this? This is just this hole that is here, this hole that is there. Is there not something we can do and place a layer on top of it and get the results that we need? Why must you have to, in quote, worsen the state of the road for you to get the result? Now, that's exactly what happens when road constructions are going on. They make the road worse than it was to be able to get the beauty and the strength that people get to appreciate. Sometimes it looks as if the more a person is praying, the worse things get. And those situations are important for you to understand the building process. I've seen people buy houses that were, they looked pretty beautiful when they bought it. And suddenly they get into the house and they said, it's not up to my taste. I want to work on it. And next they start destroying again. They start destroying. Some even bring down the whole building and start erecting another. Can I say this to you quickly? How that in building, sometimes, not every time, in building, sometimes, depending on the state or the posture or where you start the building from, in building, sometimes destruction is what gives birth to life. It doesn't make sense, right? Sometimes destruction is what helps us appreciate the life that emerges next. Maybe the word destruction is pretty harsh, but then you bought this land. It had some foundation on it. It had some. I remember when we had a farm, I was supervising about 3 or 4 acres of land, planted cassava with maize on it. And before we could do all those planting, the first thing we did was to clear it. We had to clear everything that was there. Did irrigation, did plenty things there, before we planted. What we simply did was, even though it looked beautiful on the outer, on the surface, we prepared the land for use. Sometimes certain preparation for use, for maximal use, certain preparation for maximal use requires some measure of clearing. And so, until you truly allow that clearing, you wouldn't vouch effectively for whatever is put upon that land. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Okay. Once again, I want to say welcome to PV Musings. And today, we'll start a new teaching series. And it is on the subject, under construction. I believe that every man, just like the land that I spoke about, just like the road that I spoke about, is under construction. If you do not subject yourself to being under construction, then you are not meant to be valid. You would lose your relevance. A person who is not under construction is a person who is no longer evolving, is a person who within the space of time will lose relevance. Every man on earth is under construction. Different aspects of your life, different aspects of our lives require construction, requires building, and this building process can be tiring sometimes. I know a road in Nigeria here that has been worked on for years. I know in some other countries it shouldn't take up to that 10 years. There are certain roads that I am aware of that has been worked on. Okay, it was worked on while I was a child. Now it's still being worked on. About 3 decades after, it's still being worked on, and that's because the way it was worked on when I was a child was about patching. Many of us get to patch things that we ought to destroy. We patch things we ought to, root out of our lives. We manage it. Meanwhile, they are going to stop us from getting to where we're going to. Understand this. They could serve you for the next 1 year. They could serve you for the next 2 years. But if you do not work on it permanently, then you wouldn't get the best or the most of it. So the way to get the most of it is to take time. It is better to slow down and arrive well than to hurry up and arrive and not arrive at all. Sometimes people have, because they feel that time is against them, they feel that let's just patch things up and let us get to where we're going to. Let us just manage it. Let's manage it. Let's force it. Now, something happened to me a couple of days ago. We had this wedding in another city, and while we went for that wedding, on our way back, I suddenly discovered that on my dashboard while driving back, my dashboard started giving me the signal that my car battery light was on. I parked the car. I went on YouTube to understand what that meant. YouTube helped me see that it meant that my alternator was not charging my battery, meaning that my alternator was faulty. Now, this is a new battery. I bought it about less than a month ago as a replacement of the older one. Now, I had two options: stay here and get someone to fix it here, or drive down to Ibadan, where I'm resident, and get it sorted. Either ways, this car must be attended to. So I risked it, I patched it, and I drove down all the way from that city. Now, one person in the car, one of the people that traveled with me, was already saying, so what do we do? I said, you're bothering. Does it solve the problem? It doesn't solve the problem. Now, I can't solve the problem. So I patched the car. I drove down, as fast as I could. On getting to the state where I'm based, the next thing that happened was that the car didn't move further anymore. You get, the battery was drained and all the like. So we packed it. We called the electrician to come check it up. They call them rewire. Not just mechanic. This is a rewire. We called him. He came, affirmed that it was the alternator. We took the car to his office, and we got it fixed. It took a long time, but we got it fixed. Now, my point is that some people are like that. Some lives are like that. There are certain characters, certain flaws that ought to be worked on now. And you're waiting for the marriage, you're waiting for the job, you're waiting until you're out of a country, you're waiting until you fix that aspect of your life. Yes, you will discover that you would get that which you're waiting for. However, it will place a limitation to how much you can achieve. It places a peg on your life. It places a limitation to how much you would get. So it means that when others are just getting started, you're done. And that's because you didn't address early the things that you ought to address. So in the story of this my car, the people were left in the city, before coming to my own city where I'm based. The people were left there. In fact, got home before we did. They got home before we did. They had to be calling to ask, oh, Pastor, we heard that this happened. They were home already. So even though I had gone ahead of them, and they possibly will be celebrating where they are without knowing what was inside of me or what was in the car, without knowing what I was going through, they possibly will be celebrating and be lamenting possibly that, Pastor has gone ahead. Pastor must be in Ibadan now. Oh, Pastor must be home now. Pastor must be resting. Pastor must be this. Pastor must be that. I mean, they could be wishing that they were me, just like sometimes we wish that we are other people. Okay? Not knowing that I was not in the right position. And even in my journey, I was now wishing that I was them, that I was the one who was home now. Even though I left earlier, even though it looks like people have gone ahead of you, sometimes they are in regret. You don't know. You don't know the flip side. Sometimes, I was listening to one of my friends minister recently, the Apostle Femi Lazarus, and he was sharing about how single people should maximize the singlehood, that he's aware that, quite a number of people, ratio of married people are wishing that they are single. They are wishing that they can have their single days back. And you're wondering, the marriage I'm pursuing is what some other people want to get out of. The children that I'm pursuing to have is the same, or the same children that many are saying that they are too much. The job I want is the same job many are saying that they want to break from. What else? The country I'm trying to relocate to is the same country many people there are saying that they just want to come and experience Africa. I mean, on and on and on and on. And that is one of the things that places a balance in this world. But I don't want you to lose focus of what we're sharing about, which is the fact that you are under construction. So comparison will not help you maximize the season that you are. Take it or leave it. At every stage of our lives, just like we shared last week, people wait. Again, at every stage of our lives, there are things to build up on. There are things to build up on. We are always under construction. Always under construction. I want to ask you, and I like that you ask yourself, how well you're maximizing this. Are you patching it just for the road, just to arrive early, or you are really working on yourself to be presentable? There was something about a woman that I read, and I'm sure that at a point or the other you must have heard her story, and that was the story of Esther. Esther understood that, that she was meant for the king. Her uncle Mordecai prepared her for the king, prepared her to meet the standard of a king. Okay, and in all the preparation, she knew that her beauty was only valid to capture the eyes and the sight of the king, not just for the princess, not just for the servant, but for the king. Her beauty was only permitted to capture the heart of a man who has influence, who has. Now, she didn't stay saying that, because of this, because of that. Our uncle consistently prepared her for what she was meant for. Now, a man who is under construction is a man who is under consistent preparation, upskilling. I mean, I know the Lord has told you about that UN job. I know the Lord has told you about that job in ECOWAS. I know the Lord has told you about that multi-billion dollars contract. But what I'm asking you is that, are you working on yourself? He told you that you're going to speak to kings. He told you you're going to speak to great men. But are you preparing yourself? Are you fine-tuning your words such that it's valid and it's what greatness and great men will want to hear? Refined. Are you refined? Are you purging yourself? Are you working on you? I mean, what exactly are you doing to yourself that will make you stand out, such that, like Joseph, Bible says that he taught the senators wisdom, that you can impart generations on people with measures of wisdom? Because the constructions you yield yourself to are the things that will determine if you are valid to be part of a builders of different other people's destiny or other people's destiny. Okay, how refined you are, how subjected to construction and to building that you've yielded yourself will determine your validity of featuring in other people's future. Are we together? So you get to see how that it's important that you subject yourself to the building, to the construction that God is trying to forge out of you. I know, you see, one of the major lessons I learned earlier in life is how that one way to know that gold is gold or gold is pure now is that the dross is taken out of it, and now the blacksmith, the goldsmith can now see himself reflected in the gold. It looks now like a mirror. He can see that the dross is gone. It's as pure as anything, very refined. And now, for that gold to get to the refined state, it has been subject to a lot of, burnings, a lot of hurt, a lot of pressure. And those pressures are there, those burnings are there to present it as refined gold. Now, what are you doing to the pressures coming your way? What are you doing? Are you considering as part of the building blocks of your destiny? Or are there things that you're just glossing over, believing that that's just it, it's not relevant to my future? I know that you're facing criticism. In all the facing of yours, in all those criticisms that you're facing, are you seeing it as a thing or as a tool for building? Are you seeing it as part of the things that is required for you to get the most of yourself? I'm saying to you, do not waste the season. Do not get your eyes off the fact that you are under construction. Every man is under construction. Many people appreciate the buildings that are already made, not knowing that at the stage of they are being constructed, before their finished state, they were nothing to look up to. They were nothing to snap. They were nothing to fantasize about. But when they were done, when the builders were done, they added the lights, they added the fittings and everything. It became a spectacle, something that everyone desired, that they owned. At the foundational level, it wasn't something anyone desired, but at the perfecting stage, everyone desires it. If you do not work on yourself, no one will desire to be you. The people you desire to be are people who have worked on themselves and people who are working on themselves. The fact that you appreciated a man 5 years ago does not mean you still appreciate them the next 5 years. One thing that will make you consistently appreciate a person is the fact that they keep evolving. I'm asking you today, are you evolving or are you stagnant? What are you doing with your season of building? Once again, this is PV Musings. A lot to be said. I hope you're blessed. I hope you're refreshed. I hope you're challenged. See you next week as we share more on the subject under construction. I love you and I celebrate you. I'm rooting for you. In case you're discouraged, know that I am rooting for you. God bless you.